Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Haley, Executive Director for Wake County Economic Development. Thank you for joining our final seminar as part of our virtual economic development series. So far, we've heard from multiple leaders in this community who have shared data, predictions, and insight into the future of our community and how we can move on to our next chapter. For the final seminar today, I'm excited to share a recap of our learnings from the last three sessions, and then you'll hear from two important community leaders. Before we start the presentation, I wanted to recognize Raleigh Chamber members, EDGE investors, and our many partners for continuing to support this community and each other during this time. We'd also like to thank our elected officials who have joined us today for their continued leadership. We also sincerely appreciate the support of all of our sponsors. Because of their commitment to the summit, we're able to bring you information, resources, and tangible takeaways in a virtual format. Thank you to each of these sponsors. Our gold sponsor, Credit Suisse. Our silver sponsors, City of Raleigh Office of Economic Development and Innovation, and Highwoods Properties. Our bronze sponsors, Carolina Hurricanes, Martin Marietta, Relate Advocacy, and Wake Technical Community College. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors for making this series possible. During this final seminar, let's stay connected. Join today's discussion on Twitter. Use the hashtag EconDevSummit20 and tag us using @RaleighWake and @RaleighChamber. Please also note you'll receive a recording of this presentation and a blog recapping the event in the next few days. Before I introduce our main speakers, I wanted to share several key takeaways from the last three seminars and set the stage for the conversation today. The focus of our Economic Development Summit series has centered around the evolution of economic development and our region's next chapter. We kicked off our economic development series with Ted Abernathy as he provided us with insights as to how economic development and our economy have evolved over the years, the impact of the pandemic on our regional economy and our long-term prospects, and the new driving factors of our economy. Next, we had an important conversation with Wake County Board of Commissioners Greg Ford, Raleigh Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin, and Merritt Gutman of the Brookings Institute about economic mobility, equity, and inclusion. At our third seminar last week, we unveiled the data for the Regional Skills Analysis Survey that was completed in partnership with Capital Area Workforce Development, the City of Raleigh Office of Economic Development and Innovation, and RTI International. Each seminar offered a different snapshot of what economic development is today and how we can improve the way we work together as a community. We identified the following takeaways that help link these seminars together. The first takeaway is increased economic mobility leads to increased prosperity. There is certainly a social and moral case for inclusion, but it's important to recognize that there's also a business case. Recognizing the business case for inclusion engages non-traditional stakeholders in a shared goal of increasing opportunity and ultimately prosperity for all. Next, employers are changing the way they source and evaluate talent. One of the most important preliminary findings from the Regional Skills Analysis Survey was that employers are broadening their talent pool by more frequently looking at alternatives to four-year college degrees and credentials for hiring. This will have an impact on our workforce development system, but this will also mean people can access more and different types of jobs. While growth may be uneven across industries, we have an opportunity to bring people into careers, not just jobs, that allow increased access to a career lattice or ladder, thereby increasing our community's prosperity. And finally, ready, reset, and go. But let's make sure there's widely shared opportunity. The pandemic has had a tremendous impact on our economy and our lives. Yes, this is a reset moment, but the market's fundamentals, strong talent, educational ecosystem, diverse economy, and a high quality of life are our strength and will enable us to recover strongly. However, we must ensure that this recovery is accessible to our entire community. I'd now like to introduce our speakers. We are excited to bring you a CEO to CEO conversation that will focus on the what's next for Raleigh, Wake County, and the region. At the end of the conversation, we'll be taking questions from you. So we invite you to use the question function, not the chat function, to submit questions that will be shared. At any time during the presentation, please submit your questions. We have had great participation from you all during this series, so let's continue to participate in the conversation. I'd like to invite Adrian Cole and David Morken to turn on their cameras and join us now. First, let me introduce Adrian Cole, President and CEO of the Raleigh Chamber. Adrian leads the Triangle's largest nonprofit business membership organization, representing 2/3 of the private sector employment in Wake County. In this role, Adrienne and her team lead economic development, support business-friendly public policy, encourage investments in transportation and education infrastructure, foster entrepreneurship, create a diverse, equitable, and inclusive business environment, and grow Wake County's future leaders. Please also welcome David Morken, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Bandwidth, a software company focused on communications for the enterprise and has called Raleigh home for the past 19 years. Bandwidth is currently located on North Carolina State University's Centennial campus and recently announced a massive expansion, adding more than 1,100 new jobs and the construction of a new corporate headquarters in Raleigh, something that we are all super excited about. Bandwidth has grown to more than 800 employees between their Raleigh, Denver, and Rochester offices. The company also announced an initial public offering in 2017 and has played a critical role in the development of communications for global companies such as Google, Microsoft, and Zoom. And now we're ready to get started. Adrienne, I'll hand it over to you to kick off the conversation.
That's great. Thank you, Michael, and welcome, David. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Adrienne.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. The focus of this year's summit has been on the evolution of economic development and the future of our community. These are the cornerstones of the Chamber's work. Additionally, the Raleigh Chamber plays a role in many other areas when it comes to our community. To name a few, the Regional Transportation Alliance is tasked with driving the future of transit and transportation in our region. Our public policy priorities illustrate the commitment to our collective future, and our organization plays a large role in passing bonds to help our growing community. Our team remains focused on supporting our local small business community through innovative programming to support their long-term success. In March of 2019, we launched the Triangle Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity Alliance with a vision to make the Triangle region the most diverse, equitable, and inclusive business environment in the country. We've also shifted our focus to help our community respond and recover during the global pandemic and launched a website to help provide resources and a contact point for local business owners. Our team has also partnered with other leaders in the community to form a recovery task force to kickstart rebuilding efforts in Wake County and the region. Finally, economic development is a core focus for the Raleigh Chamber, which will play an important role in our community's next chapter. David, with your leadership, Bandwidth has become one of Raleigh's greatest success stories and truly captures what a company can do in our market now and in the future. So I'd love to get us started with some questions, and then I know we're going to have some great questions from the audience as well that we'll be incorporating into the conversation. So with so much happening at Bandwidth, can you share an update on the company and what does the future look like?
Thank you, Adrienne, and thanks to the whole Raleigh Chamber for everything you all do, and congrats on the success of this terrific series. Delighted to be here. And as to Bandwidth and what the present looks like and the future looks like, the future for Bandwidth more and more looks international, based in Raleigh, but the opportunity is now expanding to include international. We're providing service in the UK and the EU and Switzerland. And the most important thing right now is that we're accomplishing our mission, and that is to develop and deliver the power to communicate. And in a season dominated by working from home, I am very gratified that our team has rallied to support the increased demand we've seen among our customers.
That's fantastic, and such an important service that you're providing at a critical time in our country. So one of the incredible bright spots that has happened during the pandemic was the announcement of Bandwidth's expansion and the creation of your new headquarter campus in Raleigh. Can you talk a little bit about why Bandwidth decided to stay and grow here? We're all really excited that you did.
Yeah, we're a North Carolina story. We've got bandmates, as we call each other, from every university in the state, from every community college, from backgrounds that are as diverse and wildly different as you can imagine. So for 21 years, we've grown, and almost 20 of those here in North Carolina. We do have offices in other places like in New York and in Colorado, but North Carolina is home. It is where we have found rich soil to put down our roots and to really grow strong. And that includes the North Carolina culture that is filled with both excellence and goodness, and that rubs off on many who join us. And as often is said in racing communities in North Carolina, rubbing is racing. And that goodness that rubs off on our people, that's a great thing for our mission.
That's amazing. Rubbing is racing. That's fantastic. So you touched a little bit on, the fact that our market has incredibly strong fundamentals, a strong base of talent, dynamic economy, education and higher education ecosystem, and a wonderful quality of life. So we know there are many positives about Raleigh and the Research Triangle. As a community, I think we're all committed to striving to improve and grow and to do better. I often say that I'm sort of in this state of dissatisfied optimism. I always try to strive to do more. So to that end, what are some of the challenges and opportunities you see for our future?
Transportation is a huge challenge. The I-40 corridor, we have folks join our team from the Bay Area, from Atlanta, and we don't want to squander the opportunity that we've grown in North Carolina by failing to address commute times. And whether it's 540 and the extension or the I-40 corridor, I think that transportation is enormous and important to continue to foster quality of life. Another one that is top of mind for me is we have folks join us who are used to having opportunities for their families that include waterfront that isn't 3 hours away at the beach, but is lakefront or nearby lakes. And Charlotte has wonderful opportunities to be near Lake Norman or other lakes. We have Jordan Lake right here, and I would love the impact on the Wake County school tax base. And I love the recruiting potential that would exist from responsible development of the Jordan watershed in a way that would bless families and would bless our opportunity to recruit and quality of life. And I think transportation and something as simple as water, those are basics, those are nitty gritty, but I think that they would have a foundational impact for the next 50 years of growth in our area.
I think those are great points. Can you touch too on your perspective on venture capital in our market and opportunities there?
I can. We are a community that I believe could benefit enormously from more risk capital. I believe that Bull City Ventures is embarking upon raising their 4th fund, and that's some tremendous news, but it's also really stark in contrast because I'm not sure there's another institution that's raised 4 funds in our area. And risk capital is essential because we have more and more vibrant young creatives coming to our community, collaborating with proven professionals, and these folks have vision and they have plans. And if we don't come alongside with risk capital, that seed is going to lie on fallow soil. And so when clusters of creatives can be funded, then great things happen. And now that capital, Adrian, can come from multiple sources. You can have institutional capital from proven firms, but risk capital from teams that have already had a harvest, that is the earliest stage capital that is most formative to massive value creation. And unfortunately, there are fewer and fewer public companies, mergers and acquisitions happen earlier. So I just am eager and covet a season when risk capital can be deployed in our community into the teams that are really excited about their vision for changing either in technology, in pharma, in education.
I know that's fantastic, and we have so much potential here if it's fueled in the right way. So great points. So Bandwidth is known for its amazing culture, and I think that you really set that tone, which is one of the many reasons we were excited to have you today. And it's also one of the reasons you wanted to create the new headquarter campus to further develop a uniquely Bandwidth culture. So for a company that thrives off of interaction of its team members and working closely together, how are you adapting to this new virtual workplace? Can you talk a little bit about how your culture has changed, how you're keeping your employees engaged through all of this? And then I'm really interested in this one. What would your advice be to managers and executives who want to ensure that their employees stay engaged? Yeah, I know it's a concern of mine for our small chamber team, but it's something that I hear across the board from other leaders as well.
Thank you for asking, and I want to keep it real. We have deposited relationship capital into our accounts with our team for years. And we've done that by being face to face and being together, and in a context that spans the workday and even after the workday. So we've made deposit after deposit. And when I say we, I mean you at the chamber, us at Bandwidth, everyone out there involved in a business. We have made deposits into our accounts in terms of relationship capital, and we are all withdrawing every day from those accounts. No question about it. Even as we are all being more productive, even as we are creating more widgets, or answering more tickets, or creating more leads, or working with more customers, that productivity level is decidedly different than morale and esprit de corps and the mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being of all of us as individuals and as teams. And so to answer your question, how do we at Bandwidth, with our culture that has been historically so focused on interpersonal relationships, adapt to being isolated, to being quarantined, to being in solitary confinement? It is the small unit leader, the front line manager with less than 10 people that they are responsible for that makes the most difference. The individual leader face to face with direct reports every day is the only way, in my view, that we all get through this. It is not, even though we have all hands, even though we have ask me anythings, and even though we have company-wide stand-ups and video platforms, the names of which I will be agnostic about because we serve them all.
Right.
Even though you do all that, it is the individual leader of that small 5-person sales team that is engaged one-on-one every day. It is that individual leader in our knock and her ability to check in and to recommend a care package be sent to a person that they encounter on their team that's hurting. It's that individual small leader, face-to-face, heart and mind. In the military, in the Marine Corps where I served, that was absolutely essential. And today, more than ever before, it is not the senior executive waving a flag that matters. It is the small unit leader that's loving her team. And even as they're all doing more than they've ever done before, that's what matters most.
That is such incredibly good advice, and you're spot on in that I talk to people throughout the community, and they're all doing more than they've ever done. Yeah. In this virtual world, it almost feels more intense, and they feel disconnected, and in some cases, the work that they loved is now challenging in ways that they never anticipated. Yeah. So, are you spending? Do you let each team leader sort of manage that on their own, or have you been sort of advising them as well? How have you been handling that?
We encourage junior leaders in lots of ways, but delegating responsibility to them includes them having the joy of how they lead. I've watched in this season, though, the most effective small leaders engaged one-on-one and with their teams face-to-face almost every morning or at the right time during the day. Those leaders that are staying closest to their individuals on their team in a wonderful way are making the difference. And yes, sometimes that includes getting together at Dick's Park, keeping distance appropriately, having a picnic out in the sun, going on a walk, or even in an essential business where the office is open, coming in voluntarily and being in an appropriate way face-to-face. And that's only interspersed. Most of the time it's remote. But we don't dictate to small unit leaders how to lead. We encourage them, and I've loved watching the creativity with which, for example, Adrienne, some of them are doing crazy costume competitions where they all show up on a video looking bizarre. Others are opening their fridge and sharing pictures of their fridge, and whoever has the most organized fridge wins the award that day. There are innumerable ways in which leaders are bringing the interpersonal through the screen. Having said that, I still believe we're all in a season of dramatic withdrawal of relationship capital. So it is a rearguard action, or it's a really creative enterprise to lead in this season. But don't for a minute think you're going to exceed what you were capable of as a leader in person. We know that you're fighting an uphill battle, but fight it well.
That's incredible advice, and sort of segues to the next question. So our region faces a difficult road ahead. We know that. I also believe that we're uniquely positioned to rebound and adapt. What words of advice do you have for business owners who are struggling to adapt to a new way of working, flexible schedules, how and when to reopen their doors? There's just so much uncertainty. What would your advice be for them?
Boy, that is a good one. That is a good one. And it so much depends upon the nature of the work that's involved, because some of us are driving desks like us, and others are working on a job site or in a warehouse or in delivery. And my advice is be aggressive. And by be aggressive, don't be a victim. Be wise as a serpent, innocent as a dove in terms of obeying law and policy. But make no mistake about it, you have people, if you're in business, who are depending on you, not just your employees as constituents, but you have customers who are depending on you. Be aggressive and don't let fear mess with you. I think there's a spirit of fear that you've got to confront head on. You got to stay rational and aggressive, and that's really important.
I could not agree more. I've had a couple of pick myself up by the bootstraps moments during this pandemic. And it has been at times around fear and just saying, all right, you know what? We've got this, and you're gonna make the best decisions that you have with the information that you have in the moment, and you're not gonna be afraid, by golly.
Amen.
So I think that's incredible advice. So creating an inclusive and diverse culture is important to you and your company. So how has the recent conversation about social and racial justice affected you personally and the company overall?
Yeah, personally, it has been the most intense season of leading in my 21 years. And the moral authority as a leader is suddenly in question in the following way. Do you, David Morken, love all your people? Do you? Inclusion is a fancy word, really too fancy for me. Inclusion means, do you love your colleague? Do you love your teammate? No matter who they are. And in business, we don't like to use the word love, I know, but that's what it means. It means you got a mission, but on that mission, are you sacrificially leading and loving all your people? And oh, by the way, if you're not leading, inclusion means when someone joins your team that's new, are you putting them first? And that is so important in this season when race and police brutality and tragedy and murder are on all of our screens. Do you love your colleague in action and in words while on your mission? And at Bandwidth, we are focused on unity. And unity does not mean uniformity. Unity does not mean uniformity. Diversity is wonderful. And unity doesn't just tolerate diversity, it celebrates it. Unity celebrates diversity. If you're unified coming from all kinds of walks, it's a fabulous thing. And it makes that unity all the more powerful. So what we do is embrace the value of the individual, the incredible importance and pricelessness of every individual, no matter who they are. And we demand that we love each other on this mission. Demand it. And that's how we go about it. And do we fail? Do we have a long way to go? You bet. But that's kind of our baseline. And personally, I want to also make sure that I tip my hat to my colleagues at Bandwidth who have reached out personally to share the incredible pain and the depth of emotion and grief and anger and sorrow that has come with George Floyd and all the other tragedies that we've witnessed. The personal impact of stories from the racial minorities on our team, the sexual minorities on our team, has been incredibly important to me personally during this season. And I want to make sure I mention that. It's vital to understand where people come from and to relate to that experience, even while you're maintaining a culture of merit-based performance. We want to cast a wide net for as wide a variety of people as we can possibly have on our teams. and we want to go after our mission, sacrificially loving each other, celebrating our successes together, mourning and grieving when we fail, but we're all in it together.
That's amazing. You are such an inspirational leader. I'm going off script here, so bear with me. I'm going to ask an Adrian question. So, you know, and I know that you have focused a lot on, and this is sort of a follow-up to what you were just talking about, the, you know, your employees sort of whole selves. So their, you know, work-life balance and how they manage those things. So how do you, can you talk a little bit, share with our audience today how you all, I think you all do some really special things at Bandwidth to make sure that people are able to take care of their work life, their home life, their spiritual life, their health life, and all of those things. Can you share a little bit about your philosophy? I mean, when I heard you speak at C-Suite, it fundamentally changed the way I manage vacations at our office. So I think that there's some inspiration there for our audience.
I'm delighted to. We have a whole person promise that we make, and that means we expect you to grow stronger in your body, your mind, and your spirit while you're a part of our team. We can say that, and it would mean nothing if our policies didn't provide for it. And so, for example, at lunch, we have a 90-minute workout lunch commitment with shuttles, gym membership, and an absolute right for you to take that time with classes, with intramurals, during the day for your physical well-being. And what we're committed to there is you don't have to do it on your own time in the morning or the evening. You can do it on our time at lunch. You mentioned vacations. We have a vacation embargo, which says two things. Number one, you must take all your vacation every year. We reject peer pressure influencing you not taking holidays. You must take all your vacation. And when you do, you are embargoed from anyone at the company contacting you. You're prohibited from contacting vendors, suppliers, customers, colleagues for any professional reason so that you can be truly refreshed. And those are just two ways, in addition to paying healthcare premiums, babies are free, all those kinds of things. I could go on and on.
Well, it's really amazing. And I will tell you that I recently took a vacation and I was not doing a good job at the beginning of the vacation. And then I actually had a moment of, Adrian, David would tell you. So, so the second half of my vacation was much more successful. So my final question before I move to some of the audience questions is, what is your vision for Raleigh and the Research Triangle region? And then what would your call to action be as we write the next chapter?
That is a big question. I'd like to start with the company because my focus in the community is on the vitality of the company and the near 1,000 people and families represented in the company. We are building a new campus. We are so excited about partnering with the state for the ground that we have. And what I am most excited about relative to the campus and how it influences the community and the city and the region is our campus is going to have a beating heart. And that beating heart is going to be an on-site integrated Montessori school through kindergarten for every eligible child, no waiting list. And we're building this with the help of a phenomenal design and construction team. And we're focused on mitigating the tragedy of single parent families or dual parent working families who are just tortured to drop off the child on time, pick the child up on time, pay for really high quality early investment in child development. The walk of shame, as I call it, Adrian, which is leaving your team at work early when everyone else is still working because you've got a family obligation, and then you show up late. And so now the child development workers are kind of looking at you sideways because you're not a good parent. We want to get rid of all that. And what we're committed to is an on-site integrated Montessori school at the campus. And there are key demographics in our community who disproportionately have single parent families who we think we can bless in a unique way with this beating heart of our new campus. So how does that relate to our vision for the city or the area? We simply want to be a company that thrives on our mission, but goes into our communities and blesses them. And that all starts with how we function as a team at work with our families. And I know this is it's kind of a throwback to say we're going to have more of our life happen on the campus relative to educating our youngest among us. But I think that what that yields is back in our communities, more productivity. One other point, during this season of both pandemic and racial conflict and reconciliation and all these issues, we've also released another benefited bandwidth, which is we call it Go and Do. Instead of just posting on social media how you feel about anything going on, we're giving paid time off each year, full day, for you to go wave a flag, fly a banner, contribute, protest, support, don't care. Be involved. We are saying essentially, at Bandwidth, we're unified. You can go out and be a part of any cause you want. When you come here, you're on a mission and you got to love your bandmate, but go be a citizen. And that's something that we've turned into policy during this season to take action in a way that we think is much more meaningful than just posting a hashtag or anything else. We want you to actually go and do something.
That's amazing. And I think, we recently hosted a courageous conversation where the CEO of Ben & Jerry's, Matthew McCarthy, spoke. And it was about how companies can support the civic engagement of their employees and enabling, people to bring their whole selves, including their passions, to work, and then being given the space to support those things. So you're living into that, which is just amazing.
It's such a balance. The tension is, you got to be unified at work. You got to love all your colleagues on the spectrum of whatever ideology they have. So good order and discipline and being unified and sacrificially supporting each other is key. But we also want you involved out in your community. So there's this really important boundary or distinction, which is love each other and be on your mission at work, and then make sure you're able to pick up your flags and go fight however you'd like outside of the company.
Amazing. I could carry on with my questions forever, but we want to make sure we have time for the audience to ask theirs. So what an incredible conversation. So for our audience, we'll now enter into the question and answer portion of the seminar. As a reminder, you can submit questions using the question and not the chat function. And so now I'm going to try to shift over and not screw this up. So our first question is, can you speak to the type of and level of roles you plan to hire with your new hires with the new headquarters, and will they be in North Carolina?
They are in North Carolina. They are across the entire company: sales, R&D, technology, networking, ops, support, marketing, people services, spans the entire company. The average salary is high relative to all jobs in the community, but consistent with what you would expect from a tech company. And I would encourage you to apply.
I love that. And that's fantastic. Thank you. So this question is also about the headquarters. So as a headquartered company, how would you sell the market to other CEOs for them to move their headquarters here? And before I let you answer that, can I just say thank you for keeping your headquarters here? We're so excited that you're here and super grateful. But I think that that's a really a good question, and a good question for those of us in the economic development world.
When I talk to other technology company CEOs, when I'm traveling or on a video, I tell them all, this is a horrible place. It's just tragic. You don't want to come here. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm kidding. I'm incapable of doing that. I share evangelically the greatness of the people in North Carolina and the goodness of the people who hail from North Carolina, or like myself, have emigrated here. And that is a competitive advantage.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're not worried that we think that you're exactly the right messenger for our economic development message. Thank you for that. So another really good question, and I think one that you are uniquely qualified to answer. So our attendee asks, as a parent, I've never felt more overwhelmed on how I will balance my work and raise my family. With knowing that schools won't operate at full capacity this fall and the pressure that puts on working parents, how are you supporting these employees at bandwidth? And you spoke about your beating heart, but in the interim,
Yeah.
what's your thinking?
We have to make room for different teammates in different contexts. Some of us are almost empty nesters and can hammer 18 hours uninterrupted. Others are juggling, like I once did, 6 mouths or more at home, 612. And if you're in a 2-parent working household with 2 or 3 children, the rest of us need to make room for you. And that includes small teams covering for each other, individuals covering for each other. And so we have a saying at the company, extra grace. We all need extra grace for each other right now. And so if there's a screaming 2.5-year-old in the background, I need to have extra grace and not be frustrated by that. Or if there's a shift in the calendar or the schedule, and I gotta really push hard for the customer video to be at a different time because I know the home challenges of my colleague. Extra grace right now. It is a season where the obligations of those with family members are intense, and it's different. And others on our team can carry the load disproportionately during this season, and that's right, and that's okay. But I make no mistake about it. I hear you, and it is not easy.
It is not easy. And, I think that word grace is so important. It's one that I use frequently too. And have also found as a leader that when I trust my team members to flex and to balance, that they work harder for the organization because they're able to take care of their work and family life. And I've always been a working mama. I've got 3 children. And you talked about starting your company in a closet because you had a screaming 1-year-old outside of, so I think just, keeping it real and also showing that vulnerability as leaders. The folks on the call don't realize that when we were prepping before this came on, I made the disclaimer of, oh my gosh, I hope that my dog doesn't start barking in the middle of this. But that's the reality that we're living in right now. And that's a small example to the balancing children in school and all of those things. But grace is so important.
Yeah.
Really, really. So this question is back to the headquarters expansion. She asks, now that there is a cultural shift going on with more virtual and working from home, are you considering or amending your headquarter expansion plans?
So we're crazy. I'll start with that. We believe that we are all going to emerge from our homes into the bright light of an exciting future in person together. That said, I think the bar is getting raised for what the office experience must be to encourage collaboration in person at work. And that bar we're focused on with what we call Ohana, the beating heart school at our office, but we're also focused on the body, mind, and spirit commitment with facilities to support it. We've been blessed by Centennial Campus here in North Carolina. It has gym facilities, recreation facilities, intramural right adjacent to our building. We've got to replicate that. So we could say everything's going to be work from home. It's all going to be screens, flexibility. No, my experience and view is that we are going to be more and more desperate than ever to collaborate in person and to work together in person and to relate to each other in person. But that how we do that won't be cube farms and impersonal spaces, but will actually be much more warm for how they welcome us back into an office environment. And we're focused on that. We're fortunate that we've got a season of transition that we can react to as we're designing and building with great companies, East-West Partners, Capital Broadcasting, Gensler, Surface. All these folks are helping us in a tremendous way think through how we love our team, our customers, our partners in the community with a campus. And I've got to also tip my hat to Commissioner Troxler, with whom we horse traded for some tremendous ground. We're excited about supporting the State Fair to improve parking. We think things like the State Fair are vital to the whole state, and they aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's get through this and back to work.
I agree with you. I mean, I can speak for myself. I can't wait to hug people again.
I love it.
I just can't wait. So let's see. So this is another broad question. Well, sort of broad. What's the one thing you would do to ensure our community can achieve its future? And you talked about transportation. You talked about amenities like the lake. We talked about venture capital. Are there other things that you think that this community really doesn't need to lose sight on to achieve its future?
You know what, as I look back at a hallmark moment for our community, Research Triangle Park happened because people came together. Government, industry, education came together in a remarkable way. At the time, Adrienne, I think we were ranked almost dead last nationally on lots of different scores on education and things like that. It took a generation that knew how to work together to do something for the next 50 to 100 years of us. So if there was one thing that I would covet for our area for success, it is that we would be able to have across party lines and industry lines and university lines the ability to come together and focus on the future instead of fight about it. And maybe that's pie in the sky, Pollyanna, but a generation ago they did it. We see the evidence of it all around us, so I'm hopeful that can happen again.
I agree. I think one of our competitive advantages is our ability to collaborate here, and I think that we have done it better than just about anywhere else in the country between academia, our elected officials, the private sector, the nonprofit sector, to really move a vision for our community forward, and we cannot be complacent. We have such an opportunity to continue there.
You gave me goosebumps saying that, Adrienne, and the chamber has a vital role in doing that.
It's so, and it's a team sport, right? I mean, I've been saying that forever, that it's a team sport, and it is our collective responsibility. And if there are things that we don't want to snap back to after the pandemic, let's not. Let's chart the vision that we want for our community and for the future of this place that I think is one of the best places on the planet. So, I think that there's immense opportunity if we continue to stay focused on what's important. Got another great question in the chat box, speaking specific to bandwidth. So tell us more about bandwidth's products and competitive positioning, along with an outlook for its innovation in the future. What a great question.
Yeah, thank you for asking. We have a nationwide network and a software platform on which creative product teams engage with their constituencies, customers, members, to initiate voice calls, text messages, 911 endpoints. So if you're a developer on a product team, or you're a general manager at a technology company and you want to use text messaging to communicate across the schools you support or to engage the customers, and you have a need for the highest quality, highest value voice calls. For example, if you dialed into this session, you're using a bandwidth number and you're on a bandwidth network, and to start that, it only took software. You didn't have to know anything about voice or messaging. That's our product, a nationwide platform and a nationwide network. And we've been fortunate during this season to grow and to continue to innovate, and would welcome you to join our team or use our product.
That's fantastic. And I mean, from a closet with a 1-year-old crying in the background, that's why you were working in a closet, to where you are today, and then the commitment to this area, and certainly our commitment to you. I mean, we want to be there for you at every turn, and to be your partner as you not only expand bandwidth, but help us to make this place, the best in the country. Cannot thank you enough for your time. I think we have time for. I thought we were out of questions, but it looks like I just got one more. Okay, so this is bear with us here, David. We've got another good question that I don't want to miss, and we've got a little bit of time. So how do you introduce new employees to Bandwidth's culture? Do you have a specific training or introductory program that is being implemented during this pandemic?
We do. In fact, later today, I will be on a video call with 24 interns from universities around the country. We kept our internship program, and we will talk a lot about our culture then, but every week and month, we do an orientation for all the new hires, and I kick that off by talking about our culture. In fact, of all the sections, product, technology, I take culture, that's mine, and we talk about our 3 Ps, purpose, people, principles. It takes your leadership prioritizing culture to new teammates to make it stick. I also do new hire breakfasts. So we do an orientation, talk about culture, talk about policies and all the cool things at Bandwidth and all the hard things at Bandwidth. But then in addition, I do a new hire breakfast where 12 people at a time, and this is where I have a total blast. I memorize your name, where you worked, the university you went to, your past job, and I introduce you to everybody else and everybody else to you. And then I ask you things like your first and your worst job. It gets crazy, it's a blast, but that's a focus on the value of each of us as an individual. I'm saying essentially, you are vital and priceless, and I need to get to know you and your name right now when you join. And what I'm hoping to convey is, please, you as you join, continue that by getting to know, loving, and sacrificially working with your colleagues. And that starts with leadership deciding culture is important. As you come in the front door, we're gonna bear hug you symbolically with who we are and hope that it rubs off.
That is so cool. I'd love to be a fly on the wall sometime if you'd allow me.
Happy to.
That would be great. I think I'd have a lot to learn. So I think that wraps up our questions from our audience, and I'm going to turn it over to Michael Haley here in just a second. But thank you so much. I have learned a lot, as always, from your experience and your dynamic leadership, and just can't thank you enough. I'm so excited that you're a part of this community. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having us. On behalf of all of Bandwidth, it's an honor to be here, so thank you both.
Absolutely. Michael, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, David and Adrian. David, your focus, laser focus on culture and people is so important for us, and it's been so inspiring to hear you talk about that today. So thank you for sharing that with us. It really does start, one of my takeaways today, certainly at Bandwidth, it starts with people, as it always should. So thank you so much for sharing that message today with us.
Thank you, Michael.
Of course. So now we're going to conclude today's conversation with a couple quick thank yous. Again, David and Adrian, thank you so much for that great discussion. It was so great to hear from 2 CEOs talking about how they lead organizations and their visions for our community and what's next for us. So thank you both for that great conversation. I also want to thank our sponsors again for helping support this event. Again, our gold sponsor, Credit Suisse, our silver sponsors, the City of Raleigh's Office of Economic Development and Innovation, and Highwoods Property. Our bronze sponsors, Carolina Hurricanes, Martin Marietta, Relate Advocacy, and Wake Technical Community College. Again, thank you so much to our sponsors for supporting this event. So this concludes our Economic Development Summit, our first virtual summit. And we have had such an incredible time having this conversation with you. Thank all of you for your participation, your questions, interacting with us on Twitter and social media. It has really made this a special event. We hope you found this information impactful as we think about our next chapter as a community. And now more than ever, your leadership will help this community rebuild, and come back a stronger, more inclusive and equitable place for all. A reminder, in the coming days, you'll receive a recording of this conversation along with a blog recapping today's virtual event. Again, thank you all for attending and participating, and have a great day.